huh? Let's get a little music up. My alls. Why are you whining? I'm afraid this guy's lonely. Alright, good morning everybody. Here we are. A little bit bright today. This is with the curtains drawn. I mean, for goodness sake. I set it up like this. No. This. No. This is good. Good morning, everybody. Hey, Miles. What's up? Hey, Jim, Eileen, Marcia, and Gail. Miles, watch the keyboard. How did you get all wet again? Miles loves to get wet. Hey, Tato. Miles, stay off of the keyboard, please. Hey, Mona. Hey, everybody. Hey, Karen. Hey, Sarah. Oh, thanks, Sarah. Hey, Lisa. I'm digging it, too. There's also a street market up the block that I thought I should go check out in a minute. Ooh, Lynn's watching a Japanese film noir. Sounds cool. Karen, yes, I did get to the Sick Fisher show yesterday. Pretty much everything that I liked best had already been sold by the time I got there. I did get a print of another artist for the 80s right though. Hey, Octavio. Yeah, working from home today. We're under heat advisory. I don't really want to be out much. You already broke one computer this semester. That's all we say. Morning, Mom. Hey, Jim. Hey, Timothy and Lisa. Hey, everybody. Yeah, Sick Fisher sends his regards. Told me about a new piece he'll be working on all through July. So we'll be seeing more of Sick. Miles has been pretty restless lately. Hey, Miles. Okay, we're just going to sit here like this, okay then, Miles? Is that what we're going to do? Can you please go over to here? Tell you what, let's set you down right by me. Right by me, but you can sit down right here, okay? It's right here. Have a seat. Have a seat. There you go. There you go. See, there's room. And you can still rub your face against the laptop. Miles. Well, Miles is going to be back there for about a week when I have to go to Boston with a school group. And after I get back from that, maybe we'll see if he needs a kitten. We'll see how he's doing then. As of now, I feel like he doesn't love being an only cat. Morning, Bill. Miles, I want you to kind of stay in place here, okay? Miles, please. All right, everybody. So, welcome along. I'm going to turn the Benny off here. No, that's not the button. That's the button. All right. So, welcome along, everybody. Today I am in the middle of a frenzied 4-day stretch of revising and editing this book, which is about as much time as nonfiction publishers tend to give you. Yeah, they sent me back the manuscript with notes, etc. So, working on that right now. Miles, I'm going to have you hop right down here, okay? I am working on just going through the entire manuscript, making tiny little changes, trying to fix it as much as I can, so that's going to be 24 frenzied hours. Makes sense that I'm not going to be working anywhere but from home today. Hot as hell anyway. Nothing else to do. But all right, my y'alls. Hair all over the place here. Okay, I did not even mean for that to happen. What even in the world happened right there? Did you just delete something, Miles? Okay, there we go. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read a little bit. Oh, I hope the picnic went well yesterday. Hope the picnic went well. I'm just going to read a bit from the introduction of Chicago's serial husband. Where did the text go? There was text here. Oh, he's moved it. Yeah, hop down, please. Thank you, Miles. There. All right. So here I'm just going to read you a bit from the introduction, which is the part that I've revised so far. I'll set it up like this, and it'll block some of the bright light behind it. All right. So here we are. Introduction, February 1905, Nickel Plate Railroad. The train from New York crept alongside snowdrifts and barren farmland, slowly lurching toward the windy city. February 1905 was a cold month. Papers in Chicago were offering tips on what to wear and what to eat to manage in the freezing weather. Lots of fat. Snowstorms had slowed the train considerably, but the mood aboard was light, almost like a party. Someone asked Johann Hock, the most famous passenger aboard, to come have a drink. "No, sir," said Hock. "I go nowhere except where Sergeant Detective Loftus goes." Hock was handcuffed to Loftus, so he didn't have much of a choice. The train was carrying him to Chicago, where he was facing several charges of bigamy and at least one charge of murder. Authorities there had already announced that they intended to hang him. But he seemed unconcerned. He was making jokes out of everything. When a newsboy came through selling magazines, Hock asked for the latest thing he had on architecture. "Are you an architect, Mr. Hock?" someone asked. "No, I ain't an architect. The newspapers say I am a butcher." "Well, are you a butcher?" "No, I couldn't kill a cat. I'm what you call a mechanic." Some reporters transcribed his dialect phonetically in his broad German accent. "How many of those women will be there at der depot?" Many likened him to a German dialect comedian. "What are the white powders said by police to be poisons?" one reporter asked. "Ach, those powders they found in my pen. I used to wash my teeth to make my teeth white. The powders in Chicago are headache powders." The New York Telegram had just run an article about Hock in which a subheading read, "Not an attractive man." "He is short and fat," they wrote. "His forehead retreats and his chin bulges." The Chicago Journal would say Hock was about as far from being handsome as mud is from being ice cream, with a forehead like a cow's and a nose more resembling a chunk of putty. Some believed that this unattractive man had married over 50 women and murdered several of them. "In a low comedy way," wrote Francis Mall, a New York reporter who met him on the train, "he is what is popularly known as good company, an amusing, mildly cynical sort of fellow, with a vital and virile flow of spirits. One could imagine such a man bringing into the dull, drab existence of the ordinary rent-haunted hausfrau of the German districts of Chicago a glimpse of the brighter and merrier life." She knew exactly the type of women he targeted from her own Chicago days. The year 1905 was an incredible time for journalism. Technology was changing the way news was gathered, reported, and presented. Publishing photographs had only recently become affordable and effective, and papers like Hearst's Chicago American were using them like a kid with a new toy. The competition among papers was fierce and often literally violent, but among reporters there was a sense of camaraderie. Reporting would become a profession soon. The first journalism schools would open in a few years, but for now it was still a job they were all making up as they went along. And Hock had been helping them sell papers. The rush to piece together his life story and to find and arrest him had been dominating the front pages of many papers for 3 weeks now. Ambrose Bierce had written a poem about him. Popular columnist Helen Rowland had weighed in. Evelyn Campbell, the reporter who'd become a special commissioner for police on the case, sat across from him for most of the train ride. She'd turned detective in her Chicago American column, uncovering tales of Hock's life before journeying to New York to interview him in person. On the train, he gave her great quotes in between antagonizing and insulting her. At every station, crowds waited to see the prisoner, the sensation of the year. At some stops, Hock would shout, "You are all loafers!" At others, he'd blow kisses. When things were quiet, he provided Detective Loftus with funny epigrams such as, "When a man marries, he swears to love. After he's married, he loves to swear." "The smilingest little Dutchman who ever poisoned a wife," Loftus whispered to a reporter. It had been barely 2 months since Johann Hock had married Marie Shipnick Walker in Chicago. On January 12, 5 weeks after the wedding, she had died of an apparent kidney disease. While her body was still on the bed, Hock proposed to her sister, Emily Fisher. Emily accepted the day after the funeral, and the two were married on January 18th. Within 24 hours, he'd gotten her to take her money out of the bank, and vanished with it. After a highly publicized manhunt, he was captured in New York and held there until the paperwork to bring him back to Illinois came through. Now Marie's body had been exhumed, and a whole crowd of deserted wives was said to be waiting to greet Hawk at the LaSalle Street station. Lots of people were waiting there, in fact. Quite a cast of characters were brought together by the Hawk case. Coroner Peter Hoffman had just taken office weeks before, but he had a long career ahead of him, one that would be mired by allegations of corruption on such a grand scale that while serving as sheriff in the 1920s, he'd end up doing time in his own jail. Inspector George Shippey had already connected Hawk with all sorts of unsolved cases. Some of his theories about Hawk were so outrageous that they may have been early signs of the dementia that would overtake him within a few years. Chief O'Neill, best remembered for knocking off police work to study Irish folk songs, was confidently telling reporters that Hawk had killed a dozen women. Several Chicago women who'd married Hawk were speaking with the police, and many others from around the country were planning to come identify him as the man who deserted them, if they could. Myron Chappell, accused of buying dead bodies from the arch murderer H.H. Holmes to make into articulated skeletons for medical schools in the 1890s, was eager to visit to police to confirm that Hawk had been a regular in the Holmes castle. And at the center of it all was the great enigma himself, Johann Hawk. He looked to 21st century eyes like the guy on the Pringles can. He talked like a German character on The Simpsons, but he had a particular skill with women. He could find out what they wanted and be that guy for a month. Every day, more women were coming forward claiming to have married him. Who were all of these women? Which did he really marry and which were mistaking him for someone else? Which of them did he kill? Why had he chosen to kill some of them instead of deserting them? What became of those who survived? The story of Hawk would be retold several times over the decades, mostly in short articles and chapters in anthologies. But even in 1905, no one could gather all of the details of the story together, and retellings have always been hopeless jumbles of fact, fiction, and misinformation. Many of the real answers to these questions would soon be buried in old paperwork and microfilm reels. Some answers could still be uncovered a century later, but others, surely, are still buried with Johann Jacob Schmidt, alias Johann Hawk, among other monikers, in his unmarked grave in the suburbs of Chicago. All right, so there is the introduction in progress of Chicago's Serial Husband, out in just a few months from Arcadia / The History Press. All right, so thanks everybody for joining me here. I'm glad you like my new apartment. It's not normally this bright. Honestly, I think it's less bright than the previous place. It's just we got the window with the very bright light in the morning here. But all right, thanks everybody for joining me. You can pre-order that on Amazon right now. So welcome along. Debbie Miles is over here. Miles was just walking around up over here. But good morning, everybody. So thanks a lot. I'm just going to actually go back and read through the comments on this one. I don't get to see that much. Oh yeah, Marie, there's a whole thing in the introduction, a note on names. Practically all of his wives went by Mary or Maria or Marie. So I've tried to come up with like what name to refer to them all that may not be the names that they normally use themselves, or at least not most commonly, but I got to differentiate them a little bit. But all right, thanks everybody for joining me. That was the introduction. I hope you noticed the 2 Taylor Swift shout-outs right in the introduction. I'm Adam for Mysterious Chicago Tours. I will see you all tomorrow. I should really go down and put up June 28th, less than a week. On Saturday, we will be doing a Rose Hill Cemetery tour. So thanks everybody for joining me. Purple sphere above me is a light. I can make it change colors if I feel like it. But all right, thanks everybody. Have a great day. Stay spooky, one and all.